Hey, welcome to Tints and Toons. Mm, Today we are going to draw this beach sunset and this snail we drew last week in one of my tutorial which came out last week, and we are going to add some background to the same, and I'm going to use very minimal brushes. I'm using one of my own brushes which will be found in the description below, and also I'll be using some of the existing brushes. I'm not going to use any new brushes here which needs to be bought. Everything is free, and I will also give the color palette as well in the description, and I'll just put a pixel size and DPI resolution on the window screen so that you can open a new canvas and start drawing. Let's draw together and let's begin. This drying brush you'll be able to find under inking section, and this is the brush. Let's begin the video. Now let's draw some rough thumbnail sketches where the water and the beach and the sun comes. So before starting, I'm just drawing a rough horizon line in the center, and I'm just holding it the pencil after drawing without lifting it up. It will create a straight line, and after that the next step is to draw some mountains. So there are some mountains in the front, so draw some lines like this, and it is kind of like a triangle, so I'm just using two lines. It need not be perfect since it's a mountain. I'm just erasing so in eraser I'm just using any brushes. Let me use air brushing, hard brush, reduce the size, just increase it based on your judgment. Just erase this line and draw some more mountains behind the horizon line. So there will be a mountain over here and your sun will be here. This is just a rough sketch. This will not be visible in your final painting. And after this, let's draw some water. When you're drawing some water, draw a line here, and I'm just drawing one line in a cross manner, and I'll just be drawing some zigzag lines to show the ocean portion. This is where the ocean comes, and also let me draw some stones where the snail will be sitting. So I'm just using a semicircle here, not exactly semicircle, but a curve here, and you can erase the water here. So I'm just going to make slight changes to the water. So when you're drawing the waves, I'm just erasing this. Make some more curves so that it feels that it is far away. And let me make some more stones. It's kind of like a rock beach. Now let's draw this rock. So when you are drawing the rock, so it need not be a perfect line, just random shapes on the beach. As you go farther up, the rock's size will become smaller. Even there might be smaller rocks in the front as well. So this difference in size gives some perspective. Even while drawing the beach waves, let me show you what mistake I have done. So it looks like the waves are flowing downwards. So let me erase the waves again. Yeah, I also do sometimes mistake. So make it, instead of drawing like this, make it horizontal, this line, make it horizontal. So that's all. There will be some trees over here. We can draw that using painting layer. So now let's move on to the painting layer. Create a new layer by clicking this plus icon and just lock this layer 1 so that you will not accidentally paint on layer 1. And now go to my brush, which is a base brush. I'll give this brush as free in the below link. Take a orange color and increase the brush size and just color the lower portion of the sky. It's okay if it is falling on the mountain. We'll erase that later on if required. Just create one layer horizontally, not going to the top of the layer as well. Just coloring 3/4 of the sky. I'm just moving the brush over and over so it will make it more transparent as you do it again and again. Then that's what I want. And also use the same orange to color the sand portion of the beach, not the water portion. And it's okay if it is slightly it's slightly leaking inside the edges. It's okay, it's not a issue. We are not going to use the outline layer, we're going to switch it off, so it's okay. Just color over the rocks as well. It's just orange color. Later on we'll give some brown color over it. So except the water portion, I'm just coloring. So since I lifted the brush, it's creating one layer here. Use soft brush in smudge tool to just increase the brush size to 17% and just smudge it slightly. Do not over smudge it. Now go back. Okay. So this palette also I'll be providing in the link below. So far I have used this orange. You can use this orange as well. And moving forward, I'll use the colors from this palette. I'm just taking the third color from the right. To color the water portion, just entirely giving it as bluish color. Color the top portion of the sky as well. So now go to the smudge tool, use the same soft brush and just smudge the sky. From the top, pull the blue towards the orange. And just create an effect. I'm just pulling the blue towards the orange. Sorry. Now I'm going to color the mountain portion. Just let's color block it to begin with. I'm using this color, fifth color in the third row, to color the rock and the mountain portion. So now you can see this brush is a transparent brush, so you'll be able to see the color, orange color, which was colored in the below. I know there is a difference. Let's correct it. So without lifting the brush, you can give the brown color. It has created some variation in the color due to the orange which we painted before. I'm just doing horizontal motion to make it more lighter in few places. Now I'll just use this orange and color the below portion as well to make it slightly more darker. Use the smudge tool, soft brush again. reduce the brush size to around 6%. Just smudge the hard edges, it should be fine. This creates some variation. Now similarly, go to the brush, select the fifth color in the third row and color the mountain which is above the horizon line. Now also color the lower rock portion. Here is where the snail will be sitting. So I just thought to add some characters in my painting. So that's why there is a snail which I painted last week, which is also used, which I have used the existing brush and also one new brush, which I'll be providing in the description. You can download it anytime. So this is one of the brush in my watercolor brush pack. So I'm just giving this for free. If you want the other brushes also, I'll post more video on it. I have posted videos as well before. I'll post more videos on it going forward. You can buy them from my website. I'll give the website link and the brush pack link as well. It is already available on my website. So ignore the layers which I created. Coming back to the existing layer, I'm just going to use soft brush as an eraser and I'm going to erase this portion. This is for the sun region. And also increase the brush size, reduce the opacity to around 30% and erase the lower portion of the sky a bit. Need not erase it entirely. Now you go to the brush, use the add brush, same soft brush, use the light yellow color and I'm reducing the opacity to around 50% and the brush size is around 3% and I'm going to give some yellow tint. By reducing the opacity of the brush, this will also create a transparent layer so that the orange color beneath it will also be visible. It's not like entirely it is yellowish color. So don't lift the brush, use the horizontal motion to color the sky. Now the sky portion is done. Now let me take a different brush. Use a hard brush under airbrushing. These are all default brushes. Just make this more white. Now since we have color blocked all the portion, let me switch off the layer beneath it. You don't want this layer. You can remove them as well. Okay, since it's locked you can't remove it. Unlock it and you can remove them as well. It's not needed. Now going forward, let's paint the sky and the water. Meanwhile, let me choose a darker blue, the second one in the first row from the right, and going back to my own brushes, which is the base brush. This is a very simple brush, transparent brush, and it has some textures to it. If you zoom and check it, you can see some textures to it. So I've chosen this color, second from the right in the first row, and what I'm going to do is just create some waves, some shadow caused due to the waves, just using zigzag motion to paint the waves. Need not be a perfect line. And this is the bigger wave which will make it cleaner in later stage. So when I painted the bigger one, keep it around 75. Now reduce the brush size to around 25% and draw some smaller waves. Use the same zigzag motion. And You can do multiple waves which are in the far. Since it's far, the shadow also will become more thinner. And moving forward, I'm just using a white paint to give some highlight. Use it over the darker portion on the waves. Also select OK. Now since I've used white, that is fine. Now select the fifth color in the color palette and give some orange reflections above, like here I have given above the shadow portion. Now let me create some. Go to the eraser brush, soft brush, increase opacity to 50%, reduce, increase, keep the brush size at around 10, or not 10, 3%, and use zigzag motion to erase few portion of the blue. It need not be perfect, just very few portion. And moving on to the brush, use the same brush, use the darker orange fourth color, use the base brush and keeping the brush size at 25% and opacity at 100%. Just color it with orangish color in the end. This looks great. Now let me create the reflection of the sun. Let me before that slightly make it darker. Duplicate the layer. It is very dark. Move on to the color burn and reduce the opacity to 20%. This should be fine. Now this is the difference you'll be able to see. It's just making it more brighter. And merge it. Now create one more layer. Move on to add. Select this icon and from normal move on to add effect and select the yellow color and moving on to the airbrushing. Select a medium brush, reduce the size to around 2% and increase the opacity to around 80%. Now let's create some reflection. So I'm not disturbing the existing layer. Since I'm using the add, it's just erasing some portion and also gives some light effect. It's too thick. Let me draw a thin reflection. Keep this layer, the add layer. I'll use it later on. Do not merge it. Create one new layer, put it in multiply. Use the same yellow brush. Use the same medium brush, airbrushing, and increase the brush size to 3%. Just slightly color the same layer, same portion with yellow. The opacity is also at 80%. So I'm just making the lower portion of the sky a little bit darker and also the ocean portion. I'm using the same yellow color but in the multiply mode. If you see the layer, it's in multiply mode. I'll just add to the blue color. So I'm using the smudge tool, soft brush, to smudge some of the orange portion. Now this looks fine. Now let's come to the ocean portion later on. Let's draw some clouds. Take the first color and use the soft brush to just have some clouds So the opacity also remains at 50%, and the brush size also remains at 3%. I'm using the same multiply layer, a different layer, not disturbing the existing layer, and creating some clouds. The lower portion of the clouds I'm just using horizontal line, and then using the circular motion of the rest to draw the upper portion. Select a lighter, this white, which is 7th color. Reduce the opacity to 50%. Okay, this is, since it's in multiply mode, just increasing the opacity to 80%. Go back to the normal layer, create one more layer, keep it in normal, and use this brush, soft brush, to create the white clouds. So for some reason the white color doesn't color in the multiply mode, so let me use the normal layer. I'm using circular motion again. To create some variations in the clouds, drawing some small clouds as well. Go to the smudge tool, go to the soft brush, reduce the size to around 3%, and instead of soft brush, go to the medium hard brush, and opacity you can increase, and size you can keep it at 5%, and go back to the base layer, the first layer where we color blocked it. Just pull some of the blue color towards the orange. It need not be a perfect line. Pull some of the orange towards the yellow. Pull some of the colors in the clouds as well. That is in a different layer. We can do that by going to that layer. Making the bottom edge softer. This looks fine. Except bring the multiply layer below. Except for the add layer, just merge everything else. Now go to the add layer. Select luminance brush. In the luminance, select light pen. Select a darker yellow. In the add layer, let's draw some highlights for the sky. Let's reduce the brush size to 10%, reduce the opacity to 50%. So this is pressure sensitivity is there in this brush, so you can use less pressure and more pressure alternatively to bring some variation, and make the lower portion of the clouds brighter. Since it's a sunset, and also make the center portion more thicker of this reflection. Now create one more layer. Choose a soft brush, air brushing. Let me go to recent, go to soft brush, and color. Reduce opacity to around 30%, and color some orange over this, yellow over this. I'm using this yellow, this last color in the second row. So sometimes I may be choosing the colors directly from the disc. Try to choose, need not be perfect. It's just out of if you need a different color, you can always choose your own color, just to be sure you're choosing more or less the exact color. Now let's make the rock in the front more darker. So I'm choosing a blue color, and I'm going to use the base brush and reducing the opacity around 80%, keeping the brush size at 25%, and making the mountains in the front a bit dark. So while coloring this brown color, I'm just leaving some portion here and there just to give some variation. And also going to draw some more variations here. This is to just denote there is another rock in front of this. Just creating it more darker and use the smudge tool, same soft brush, opacity at 100 and brush size at 3%. Just merge this darker color, increasing the brush size to 4%. Going back to the brush base colors, using the same darker blue color.
There's nothing in your music library.
Okay, sorry. Go back to the brush, base brush, use the same darker color. Why is this not going? Let me reopen it. Use the darker blue, the second one, and also make this rock as well up slightly darker, the lower portion of the rock. While you're painting, leave some highlights here and there. So without lifting, I'm just drawing and make it more dark. While making it dark again, I'm not entirely painting the same portion which I previously painted, so I'm just painting the portion of the rock. Similarly, make this rock also a bit darker. Leave the small portion as highlight. Just darkened all the rocks. Let me draw some more small rocks. The same bluish color. Since there is an orangish color, it is making it look like a brown. Let me choose a brown fifth color to go over it again. Now it looks more like a brown color. Now using the same brown, increase the opacity to 100% and the brush size at 25%. I'm just drawing some more rocks in the center of the water. This looks fine. And take the orange color, fourth color in the first row, take the base brush again, and now coloring the outer portion. This is the highlight portion and I'm just going to use the orange color in the outside. Let me see if some other effect. No, I let it be normal. Use the smudge tool, same soft brush, and just smudge it randomly, don't have to be perfect. Go back to the add layer as well, smudge the highlight portion as well. This looks fine. Now let me choose a blue color, second color from the right in the first row. Let me make this, go to the normal layer, not the add layer, go to the normal layer, first layer, and make a portion of the sand as well a little darker since it's already a sunset. So even here I'm leaving few portion not entirely coloring. I'll erase it later. I can see some colors are here. Using the erase brush to erase this portion. Go back to the darker brown to match it. Go back to the orange color, select this light reddish color, first color in the bottom row from the right. Choose a base brush and make some variations in the orange as well. Later on I'll merge the blue and the orange. I would like to have a yellow tint over the sand so that you can see the sky color. So I'm taking this yellow, bright yellow, the second color from the right in the second row, and I'm going to use the same base brush and create some variation. Now so far I've had it at 100%. Make it into 50% opacity and make some variations. Using the smudge brush, soft brush, I'm just smudging the corners of the blue. And also the edge of the yellow. Random smudges should be fine. We'll draw the outline of the sand portion again. So far this is how it looks. So far I've used only two brushes. One is base brush, which is my own brush, and another one is some few of the brushes from the airbrushing section. And these are the only brushes I'm using. Using the smudge tool, bring this layer to the below, just merge these two layers. So I'm just painting in a different layer so that if any changes later on you can make it in a separate layer. If you're satisfied with all the colors, just merge the layer and just smudge if you have any hard edges. Like you can see some of the blue colors over the rock. You can draw the rock again, that's fine. And just smudging the blue color which came above the rock. That also added some variation. Go back to the add layer. I would like to make some changes here. Go to the erase brush. Make it 3%. Increase the opacity to 100%. Reduce the size to 1%. Just erase it like zigzag motion, not everywhere, just randomly. This looks fine. Go back to the base layer, create one new layer. Now let's darken the rocks more. Go back to the colors, select the darkest brown, which is the fifth color in the third row. Increase the opacity to 100%, brush size at 50% using the same base brush. You can entirely draw this with the airbrushing as well. I would like to use base brush because it's more controlled. Airbrushing it sort of has the airbrushing effect. It's a soft paint. This has a controlled effect. You can just paint wherever you want the paint to be. Selecting the fourth color to give some orange highlights. Going back to the fifth color, darkest brown, and making the rocks more darker. Adding some more rocks. So while adding the rocks, you can make sure that you leave some highlight portion, like how I'm not coloring this portion. It creates some light reflection from the sun. Go back to the inking brush, drying brush which I used before for the sketching purpose. Use this brush at 11%, opacity at 100%. Increasing the brush size to around 30%. Using two fingers to undo the line which I drew before. And use some pressure to draw the outline of this rock. Going back to the base layer, use the smudge tool. I can see some hard edges here. Before I forget, I just wanted to do this. Going back to the new layer, sorry, the layer which we created first, just giving some hard outlines to the rock. Some darker shadows, create some variations. Now let's add some trees. Merge these two layers. Don't want to disturb this. Create one new layer to add some trees. It's just that you can edit it later on if you don't like them. I'm using the same dry brush. I'm using 29% brush size, reducing the opacity to around 70%. Just drawing some trunks of the coconut tree. Just one single line, like fast motion. It will create some variation in the thickness as well. So after giving this, go back to the color. Select the orange color, fourth color. So let's start painting the leaves in orange color. You will understand why. So I'm just drawing some leaf effect like a starfish. Like if you see, you can see I'm adding these leaves. Later on I'll change the color. Starting with orange helps to give some highlight portion. So random starfish shape I'm giving. Now let's select the second color, blue color from the first row, and leave some portion of the leaves, like just drawing one line of blue, leaving some orange visible. So when it is visible, you can make sure that the lower portion of the leaves are having those orange tint. So I know you might be thinking like, why is she coloring the leaves with blue color since it's a sunset, and if you observe the colors from the nature, it will be very dark. You will only be able to see the shadow, not the exact color. Just some random shapes here. Now go back to the smudge tool, use the same soft brush, reduce the size to around 1% and opacity at 100%. Just increasing the size to 2% and just removing some hard edges between the blue and the orange. So this helps to remove, let me increase the brush size more, 4% or 5%. Oh, this is very big. 4% should be fine. 3%. Just making them softer. That's it. Let me add some brown tint to the leaf. Checking the, using the darkest brown, using the dry ink brush. Okay, I have not smudged this tree. Let me smudge it. Now, just using we will increase the opacity to 100%. So this is the darkest. So if you see nicely, I'm just creating outline. So I've just drawn some outlines here. Use the same smudge tool. Smudge it. Need not be perfect. Just using a darker color only for this tree. Let me erase some portion of the clouds which is visible here. Okay. Go back to the leaf layer. Now go back to the dry brush. Create one more darker layer. Select a darker blue. Just giving some color variations to the stem portion. Before adding any shadows, let me add the snail to this lace. Now let me remove the background color before exporting. Let me also remove the shadow. We can add them there. Now use the settings. Export it as PNG. Just save the image. Now go back to the new layer. Add. Settings, add, insert a photo, and then you can just add this. Okay, now since these are transparent, let me create a background effect. Background, white color background. So going back to the other layers, just merging the trees in the background. Create one new layer. Use the selection tool now and select only the snail portion. So it will not be transparent. We are just going to add some white background to the snail so that it is opaque. It's not transparent. So I'm just selecting the snail portion quickly. And then what I'm going to do is color fill it and select a white color. So if you double tap it, it will select a bright white. Now, okay, one. Now I'm just going to quickly select it, merge these two layers, create one new layer, select this empty layer, select the select tool, lasso tool is what they call it as. Use the freehand option. Just select the snail portion exactly. So you can make this snail opaque and the underneath layer won't be visible. Now, so I've used color fill to fill it. A long press, color fill it, and you will be able to see the fill here. Just merge both and bring this layer to the top. Now the background layer is not visible since you have made this snail opaque. Looks good. Let me reduce the size further. Just using some wrap option to change the size a bit so that it feels like it's sitting on the rock. Let me erase this white portion. Now to add on, Just add one more layer, put it in multiply, select a third color in the second row, select the base brush, opacity at 100 and this at 50%, size at 50%. Let's add some shadows to the snail. So this is the place where it makes the snail belongs to that place. And I've added the shadow on the ground as well. Let me add some more shadow on the snail. Let me reduce opacity to 50% and add some shadows to the snail as well, making it dark, not the entire portion. I'm just leaving some portion of the shell and some portion of the head blank. This looks fine. Now use the smudge tool to smudge the shadows hard edges. Now let me choose a red color. Use the base brush. Add some more shadow to this leaf. It looks more bluish. So the color which I'm using here is this second color from the third row. So I'm adding some shadows to the leaf. So it has to be cohesive. So that's why we create a palette, to have a cohesive look. Let me make the water much more realistic. Select the blue color, go to the brush, go to airbrushing, select the soft brush and add some. Go to the normal layer, just bringing all the layers below and moving that to the above portion. Going back to the base layer. Oh, okay, can't move the snail above. Let it be. Now let's add some variation. Okay, increase the opacity to 100%. Keep the brush size at 3%. I'm using the soft brush. Now so what I'm trying to get is some variation in the water and also the sand portion. When it is wet, you'll see a light water effect in that. So I'm just reducing the brush opacity to 30% and drawing some portion of the water land portion as blue to show some wetness. And also select the orange color. Use the same brush, soft brush. Color the go back to the multiply layer. Make the sky a little bit more orange, choosing the soft brush, opacity at 50%, brush size at 4. I'm just making the sky brush size, increase the brush size to 10. If you are having smaller brush, then it'll have hard edges, so use as much as bigger brush possible so that you will not have hard edges. Choosing the same orange, choosing base brush, creating some variations. Going back to the white, pure white. Going back to the, let's merge these two layers. Going back to the normal layer, going back to the add layer, let's add some white. So what brush I'm using? Base brush, opacity at 50% and brush size at 50%. And the layer which I'm using is the add layer. Adding some white portion. Just adding some highlights. No, I'm not going to merge this both layer. If you merge it, and if you can see what happens, the white gets disappeared. So I'm not sure why this is happening. So I'm leaving the add layer as it is, and I'm just leaving the snail as it is. So that is all for today's tutorial. Let me know how it went and did you like it. Let me add some more white. Yeah, you will never be satisfied. Let me add some more white to the sun. Yeah, that looks perfect. Now, yeah, let me know how this tutorial went. If you're sharing this on Instagram, please tag me at thingsandtones.com. I would like to see your images and how it went so that I can put more such tutorials. Thank you.